Zambia Blog Talk Radio.
Hi everyone, welcome to the show. It is Saturday, March the 11th. Believe it or not, we're already in the middle of the month. We do thank you for joining us. From wherever you're watching us from, please let us know where you're watching. Join us from so that we can be able to acknowledge you and just let you know that we appreciate you taking the time and spending the weekend with us. All right. Good morning, Maryland. Good morning, Florida. We see you. We appreciate you joining us. We have an exciting show today, and without even wasting much of the time, let me welcome my guest from Lusaka. Joining us, Mr. Mark Chilongu is the co-founder of Africa Directions. Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Doing good, excited about this, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Africa Directions. Yes. Let's start from there and talk about that. So, what information of Africa Direction and the story related to life too?
Come again?
I said, what prompted the formation of Africa Direction? Understand it's somehow related to your own life story.
Exactly. Yeah, so just like you've introduced me, my name is Mark Chilongu, born and bred in Lusaka, in one of the shanty compound called Mutendere compound. I grew up in this compound, and growing up with a single mother and 6 other siblings, living in a vulnerable situation where we were just poor, and my mom could just try by all means to see to it that we can see what the next day, just to find a little bit to scrounge here and there. Yeah, so while growing up in Mtendere, I used to go to school. I dropped out of school at some point, and because of that, I ended up using the talent that I had, which is acting. So acting and dancing, cultural dances and all that. So from there, we were just doing performances, having sensitization programs in the community being used to do that. And there was a point when we participated at the first ICASA conference that was hosted by Zambia, which is an HIV/AIDS conference. And we were renowned for performing artistic performances related to HIV. So at that time, we were introduced to this conference and were asked to perform. So while performing at the conference, one of the expatriates who was a Dutch by then, and was working in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia by then, visited Zambia at this conference and watched us perform. And just after the performance, he came to us, ran towards us, and was like, "I'm so happy with your performance. I want you to do an exchange program with young people in Addis Ababa." And we got that as an excitement. And you can only imagine, you're just simple drama, young people, only thinking about performing in Lusaka, and somebody offering you to go and perform outside the country. So we traveled to Addis. To cut the whole story short, we traveled to Addis, did our performances there, and we were supported by the Royal Netherlands Embassy then. And when we went to Addis, we were the 5 of us performing artists and 1 accompanying journalist, Evans Banda, who is also a founding member of Africa Directions. So from there, we were just brainstorming as young people after the performances. We would sit, and Evans, being the journalist, was ever having these provoking questions. Are you going to be artists for the rest of your lives? Are you going to do dancing for the rest of your lives? What else are you thinking about in life? So we were sharing with him and brainstorming on how we envisaged to create a space in Lusaka where we can have artistic performances, cultural performances, and also cultural stories where young people can come and learn our cultural values, and also young people can come to this space where they can learn being Zambian and also how they can meaningfully participate in the artistic performances. So, and then while we were brainstorming, we also saw that there was a need for young people also just to look at what other interests the young people had. So that is how, when we came back, the embassy got the report, got the type of performances we did there, and they were actually so happy. Hello? Hello?
Yes, yeah. I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, you can hear me?
Okay, so all right. Yes, I can.
All right. Yeah. So basically, when we returned, the embassy was so happy with our performances, and they equally also asked us what we wanted to do. So we shared with them our vision that we wanted a youth center that would bring in young people, and young people come and learn different skills and all that, just from our brainstorming. Then they asked us to do a proposal. And you know, we're just these drama group, young people who have no clue of writing a proposal, have no clue of writing a concept note, you know. And we were lucky. I think God connects people for a reason. So Evans was coming from the background of an NGO, then a tabloid called Trendsetters, for those that can still remember Trendsetters in Zambia, which was an HIV
I think I
AIDS
remember.
tabloid.
I remember Trendsetters. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So he had that background, so it was easy for us to tap into his expertise and also just ensure that he provides leadership, you know. And when we did our first proposal, we were young people. The embassy could not trust us with the first funding, like long-term funding. So what they did was they asked us to do a budget, and they bought everything that we needed, and only gave us money for 3 months to just prove ourselves if we were able to run programs as young people on our own. And of course, we understand their reasoning, because at that time, there was no evidence to show that we could have youth programs that can be run by young people and can be sustainable. So the 4 months for us, we grabbed that with 2 hands, and we thought this was a blessing for some of us. And we worked so hard. We envisaged that young people between maybe 10 to 20 young people will be accessing the space, but we were extremely overwhelmed. The first day of opening the gates of Africa Directions and the first week of opening the gates of Africa Directions, we could see an influx of young people, 100 to 125 young people accessing the space. So for us, that was a great opportunity to start up our careers, our passion, and our love to save lives. And when we were just brainstorming again, we were thinking about the name, and you know, we at first we thought about a local name called Vauze, tell them, and then we were like, okay, we are limiting ourselves, you know, we are limiting ourselves when we just say Vauze. But we, because we've already traveled to 1 or 2 African countries using the artistic work that we do, why not think bigger, you know? And that's how we started thinking Africa in the mind. So the first time we thought about Directions Africa, and then we were like, no, maybe let's call it Africa Directions. So when we went to Pakra first, it was Directions Africa, and then we went to Pakra and found out that somebody else was using Directions Africa. So that's how we had to just Africa Directions. The whole idea is to try and see exactly. Yeah, so the whole idea is to try and reach out to that African child who is vulnerable, to that African child who has a sense of hopelessness, to that African child who does not believe in themselves, that it is possible for us to drive our own agenda, for us to drive our own vision, and to make Africa the land that each one of us wants to see.
Excellent. Mark, most of Zambia's population, the statistics I looked actually said something like 70%. Okay, that I can only imagine how overwhelming what you do can be. How did you decide on Mutendere? And I believe the other place is Chilenge, right? And Mansa. How did you decide on, say, working in those three places?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, we are young people who experienced the frustrations and just this, just the frustrations of growing up in urban slums, you know, and also not having spaces for young people to explore their innovation, for young people to explore their talent. So we grew up in the compounds. So because we grew up in the slums, that was our first step. But we wanted something that was more positive because Mutendere, by that time, that's when they were just introducing the police station. There were high levels of lawlessness, you know, high levels of theft, and very few motivational individuals that you look up to, you know, very few inspirational people. So we wanted to create this space that would inspire us to think differently. But apart from that, we also did a baseline survey. Okay, this baseline survey also informed us about the HIV/AIDS situation in these two compounds, but also informed us about the needs of the young people, how we wanted this center to look like. So whatever we run at the youth centers, it's not the thinking of Mark Chilongu or management team of Africa Directions. It was the thinking of the people themselves. So we went, did this baseline, asked them how they wanted the youth center to look like, what issues did they want us to address, and all that. And from those findings, that is how we had to shape the youth centers in the way they run. So these are safe spaces for young people, where young people can come, have access to recreation, because that's what the communities wanted, because there are very few recreational facilities in our compounds. If there's a recreational facility in our compound, it should be a playing field. Nayeneo, it should be a playing field where it's just bare land, you know, and it's not habitable for young people to play. It's not safe for young people to play. So we created these safe places so that young people can come and have access to recreation, positive recreation, and ensure that whatever they find at the space, it's something that they love. And these included basketball, karate, boxing, you know, chess, Scrabble. We have a space where we call a children's room, where kids just come to this space and also learn basic information, reading, writing, especially those that cannot go to nursery school. They can just learn basic information, reading, writing, respect for parents, you know, values, you know, so basic things so that young people can really grow in a positive way. So these are spaces that were created with the bottoms-up approach, trying to get to the minds of the people, the parents and the young people, how they wanted these centers to look like.
Mark, that what you have outlined can be overwhelming. And I'm listening to you and I'm saying to myself, oh my goodness, how did you plan yourself into something like this? You said you established this center based on what the community, the information you got from the community using the baseline survey. Share some of the things that they were saying to you.
Yeah, so some of the things that they were saying in the baseline was that there are more buzz in the community than playing spaces for young people, especially for parents. So what parents wanted was a space where young people, those that go to school, if they have knocked off from school, they should find a space where they can read, you know, because most of these houses in these compounds, when you say they live in a 2-room house, it's literally 2 rooms, you know, 2 rooms. It's a bedroom for the parent, and the other one which is a kitchen, a sitting room, and everything in that. And it's also a bedroom for the kids. So you find that even a space for young people to read is not there. For young people to study, it's not there. So one of the issues that they wanted was for us to create a study space, you know, where young people can come and do their studies.
Okay.
But also all the activities that I've talked about, introduction of different games, and most of these parents were referring to how they were growing up themselves. You know, especially those that are coming from the Copper Belt, you see that there were a lot of recreational spaces for young people. And that is why the Copper Belt was able to produce a number of sports personalities in tennis, in golf, in mention it, you know. Yes. So it was basically parents telling us how they wanted the space to look like. And for us was to try and see how do we integrate the thinking of the community into our programming, so that even in as much as we are trying to meet some of the result commitments from the project side of things, but the center should actually be community owned and community centered and community driven.
Wow, powerful. I like that. I like that. Everybody joining us, we are so glad to see your colleagues here, Mark. We're glad to see Dr. Carlson joining us from Minnesota. Hi, Chola, Matilda, Priska, everybody, and those whom we can't see. It's exciting because it's the purpose of this conversation to bring enlightenment. People need to know what is going on with our youths and all those kind of things. Is it last week, I believe, I was talking to some of your colleagues, okay, about alcohol and drug abuse. I want you to speak to that. Is the prevailing situation as far as alcohol and drug abuse is concerned in these spaces? Because these are densely populated places, Mark.
Yes. Yeah, so the levels of drug and alcohol abuse in the compounds is actually quite alarming. And just for your own information, Africa Directions was actually brave enough to even get to Chibolia, which is like the center for drugs in the country. We were brave enough to try and see how can we create a child and youth-friendly space in Chibolia, so that young people growing up in Chibolia are not just thinking about, when I grow up, I want to start selling drugs. When I grow up, I want to, you know, and that's the environment that these children grow up in. And Mutendere is not exceptional. Chilenge is not exceptional. So all these communities now have become spaces for drug trafficking as well as drug consumption. Way back in this country, like I was mentioning even last week, I don't know if the listeners and viewers were able to get that, is that Zambia at some point was just an exporting country in terms of exporting drugs to other countries and all that. And we could see how the Drug Enforcement Commission was able to apprehend farmers who were farming marijuana for export purposes. But this time around, this country has turned around, and it has become a consuming country. So meaning many other drugs are hitting the country: cocaine, marijuana, name them, you know, and they are actually here in the compounds where we work. And we see this as an extremely alarming situation, because this is coupled with patronage of bars by underage young people, you know, sale of alcohol without permission, without licenses, you know, just lawless level of approach when it comes to alcohol selling and consumption. And we are living in these compounds as if there are no laws, you know, but this country has laws, you know. And one thing that we have seen is that everything is failing, from policy from law, policy, and also even at community level, where parents are not playing their role in ensuring that they guide their children properly and also take responsibility. They are ever busy looking for ends meet, and they don't have time for parenting. And this is really contributing to the high levels of drug abuse among young people. And we thought, as Africa Directions, we looked around other like-minded individuals, organizations, and say, how do we come together and just start this war against drugs and alcohol abuse? And how can we create advocacy messages that can remind government and other stakeholders to take responsibility and also ensure that they play a role in reducing these high levels of drug and alcohol abuse among adolescents and young people. And this is also exacerbating high levels of HIV among young people. Issues to do with gender-based violence. Drug and alcohol abuse is a contributing factor to this. And they say it's a driver to some of these issues that we are grappling with. So if we are not addressing we are not addressing drugs and alcohol abuse, we are saying all the successes that we've recorded in addressing HIV/AIDS issues will be actually reversing those successes, and we'll be reversing some of the developmental successes around issues to do with gender-based violence as well, and many other issues such as education. We have very few young people now completing their schools because some have been taken by the drug and alcohol abuse situation that we're experiencing right
now. When you look at the things that came out of our conversation last time, which you were not able to join because of technical issues, remember, Mark, Dr. Osborne did mention or allude to the fact that the issues of unlimited education have become a major factor in this area. It's overwhelming functions from what you are saying. This is a mammoth task. How is the situation in terms of employment in these compounds? How are the kids doing in terms of school? Because the only place they can come and read from or study from is the youth center Africa Directions is providing. You've already said the a two-roomed house is no place for you to do your homework.
Yes. Yeah, so I think one thing that we and many other Zambians are actually expectant, especially that we are having this new government, the new Dawn government, led by His Excellency the President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, is that Zambians are quite expectant, and I think we've also seen the government's desire to ensure that they educate the young people. Immediately they came into office, they introduced the free education policy, and that has come, yes, indeed, it's a good step to take, but it has come with its own challenges. There are no spaces anymore for young people to be enrolled in school. Again, there is also that teacher-pupil ratio issue. So young people may not be able to get the quality education that they need. So what we need is to try and see how best government can begin to bring together stakeholders that can help think through on how they can address some of these issues when it comes to education. Apart from that, there's also been a call for the Curriculum Development Center to try and change the current curriculum that we have. The current curriculum that we have is literally meant for us to memorize, memorize and get a white-collar job, and it's not skills-based centered kind of curriculum. And what we are actually proposing is that we must begin to look at this and really include skills building and all that innovation, should start at primary level just like many other countries. You know, the US is doing that. You know, China is doing that. So we must be able to see that times have changed. We can't continue having a colonial kind of curriculum that we must stick to. And probably maybe that's why we are finding that a number of them are actually dropping out of school, because if you don't know math, you don't know all these science subjects, you end up trying to not go to school, or maybe leave it completely because it's not something that you love. So it's important that we begin to identify what young people are good at primary level, so that we take them through that route until we achieve that which they want, and also they become enlightened in the area of their interest. So that is also another core, because we are seeing a number of them getting frustrated because they have degrees, they have diplomas, they have masters, but they can't find employment. And the next thing they'll do is just get into this slumber of frustration and say government is not providing us with employment, we are qualified, because it is the system, it is how we have designed our education system in such a way that if a person right now, because the population is growing, if a young person is not able to find a job, the next thing, frustration. And when they are frustrated, they become stressed. And when they are stressed, the next option will be alcohol or drug abuse.
Wow. Wow. Everybody watching, you hear for yourself. That is the purpose of why we do these programs, is to bring these things to the attention of every concerned citizen. Mark, what's Africa Direction's relationship with the Ministry of Education, police, drug enforcement, DEC, and let me just say law enforcement agencies and the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Youth and Sport? What's your relationship with those departments?
Yeah, what I would say is that our relationship with government is extremely good. And what the biggest challenge that comes with just change of government is that we have different individuals taking up different offices, and some of them would want to start in a different way. You know, they will have their own people that they want. You know, in Africa, there is one biggest problem that we have. The biggest problem that we have is that we can change governments, and when we change officers, the next thing that you will see is that those people will not look at the history of those that held that office and who has done what has been their contribution. They would want to start from the scratch, you know, and that has made Africa actually lag behind in so many things. We have seen in other developed countries rather, where they have picked up all good policies that the other regime left, and the other things that they feel they can change, they begin to change or improve on them. I think that's the approach that we need to take, because most people are too individualistic than institutional when they deal with issues of social development and also issues to do with just the well-being of Zambians. So we are working very well. In a nutshell, we work with the Ministry of Health. Our relationship is extremely well. They've been very supportive with the work that we do. We are working in about 4 of their local hospitals and clinics, and we are also working very well with the Ministry of Education through the DEBS District Education Secretary Education Board, where they've allowed us to go into schools, mentor these young people in the schools, carry out our programs in the schools. So that is really a good collaboration and working relationship that we can proudly say here as Africa Directions. The police, we are working with the victim support unit, because we deal with a lot of victims of gender-based violence. So our relationship with the victim support unit has really been extremely well. They've been supporting in addressing some of these abuse cases, GBV cases, and also ensuring that perpetrators are brought to book Drug Enforcement Commission, we actually even did a collaborative project with them, supported by UNICEF, and this was an entrepreneurship project that we did with them, and this was aimed at ensuring that we train survivors of drug and alcohol abuse with entrepreneurial skills, and also help them with stipends to start up their businesses so they do not revert back to issues of drugs and alcohol abuse. So I must say that yes, the relationship with the current government and line ministries and government department is really, really good. The only challenge that we have is that when there is this transition of changing individuals in the offices, sometimes some of these officers tend not to look back and learn from what others were doing and how we've been working with these line ministries.
Okay, you mentioned the Minister of Health in your response to my question, and part of your work involves HIV/AIDS issues, right? And
yes.
Let me ask you a two-part question. Talk about what some of the things you're doing in, because HIV/AIDS is a big project on its own, or a big assignment on its own. You operate in Mansa, right?
Yes.
You are in Mansa as well.
Yes, yes.
There is an issue of high child mortality there. What is the main reason for this situation?
Okay, so I'll start with what we have done as Africa Directions is really to see to it that we address issues that affect young people, especially related to HIV and sexual reproductive health in general. HIV is a sexual reproductive health issue, and also gender-based violence is a sexual reproductive health issue. So we want to address these in an integrated approach, you know. So as Africa Direction, we work in the hospitals and in the clinics where our projects are. So I'll give an example of one of the projects that we are running with the support of the Ministry of Health. We are running a mobile application. This is a pilot project that we've been running for the last 2 years. So why are we running this mobile application? It's basically to try and address some of the barriers that makes young people not able to have access to sexual reproductive health services, including HIV, at the health facilities. So this mobile application is more of a social accountability platform. What we have done is that we have created this platform where a young person will be able to raise a ticket if they want to have access to a service at the health facility. So they'll raise a ticket on this platform, and then that ticket goes direct to the sister in charge at the health facility, and the sister in charge will be able to allocate that particular ticket to a specialized service provider within the health facility. And then the young person will then go to that specialized person, have access to the service, and then get back to the platform and provide feedback, how the service was. You know that most young people fear to go to the hospital because they will be scolded at, because they are younger. You know, they'll be asked many questions if they're asking for condoms. They'll be asked many questions if they're asking for family planning. There are all those issues surrounding young people and the health facility. Most young people are not able to sit on a queue for a long time. They may end up going. So if it's a sexual reproductive health issue and this ticket has been raised, they'll give a feedback. I went to this health facility. I went for HIV testing and I was tested, but the counseling service was not confidential. So for us as Africa Directions, we'll pick that as an issue and then go to the health facility and use that as an advocacy issue. Why is it that there is no confidentiality in addressing HIV/AIDS testing and or counseling of young people? and the sister in charge will be able to see it also, and they'll be able to address that issue. So basically, it's a social accountability platform where we are trying to make sure that each one remains accountable. The health facility remains accountable to the services that they provide to the young people, and we get to know if it's issues of stockouts. We will be able to know if a young person raises a ticket and they want to have access to family planning pills and they don't find them. They'll give feedback on this platform and say, I went to this health facility and I did not find family planning services. And then we use that as well. We pick that as an issue, and we will know that this is an issue of stockouts. So where is the supply chain missing, and what is the issue there? Then the health facility together with medical stores will be able to address that particular issue. So that has actually strengthened the relationship between us and the Ministry of Health and the work that we do. In Mansa, why we have a number of child mortality rates, there are so many factors that are causing that. You know, one of them is that a lot of high teen pregnancies in the area. Most people are not able to access health facilities due to distance, you know. So there are so many factors that have caused that. And what we are also just trying to do is to ensure that even people have the right information. You know, people give birth at health facilities instead of giving birth at home. So these are some of the things that are happening in this 21st century. So we need to try and enhance awareness raising within Luapula province, to be specific. So those are some of the factors that are actually contributing to high child mortality in Mansa.
Oh, interesting. Those of you watching, Mark, let's look at some comments or questions here. Okay, let's start with, let me look at the comments first before I let you respond to Uncle Gregory is asking a question, but let's look at some of the. Dr. Musanje says, I like what I'm hearing from directions. We want a prosperous Zambia. Pit up. Zambians make Zambia greater. All right. And Chola says, Mark and his team are doing amazing work in Zambia. Africa Directions has produced distinguished musicians, sportsmen, and women, and other people making meaningful contributions in our society. Did I read that? Okay, in our society. All right. That's good. Thank you, Ms. Chola. Uncle Gregory makes also comments on the point that you made about government. Great point by Mark. Government continuity on good programs, politicians, policies is imperative for growth and developments. Those are some of the things that our colleagues watching are saying. Okay, I lost Mark. Before he comes back, Dr. Musanje, great to learn Africa Directions. Thank you, ZBTR, for featuring them here. They need to educate the MPs on the activities. I can connect them to one. Hey, good, Dr. Musanje. I shall definitely make sure that we get Mark connected and get them to be in different places. Okay, here he comes. Those of you who are interested in getting in touch, you can speak a direction. Yeah, is that right, Mark?
Sorry?
Is that the right email? I think it is. The email is africadirections@yahoo.com, right?
.com. Yes, but small letters. And then they can actually directly reach out to me.
Okay. I put big letters, capital letters, so that those who are blind can see properly.
Yes.
Let's try to conclude this conversation. How can those watching or those who are going to listen to this recorded discussion get involved and living these challenges? How can those watching get involved?
Okay, so there are many ways that people can get involved into Africa Directions' work. For us to have a sustainable, project, and also ensure that we have a prosperous country, and also ensure that collectively we can make Zambia to be what it is and how we want it to be, is by basically trying to contribute in a small way. So like I said, we run different recreational facilities. So in form of materials, you can support us by providing any games that you have, second-hand computers for us to put in our computer hub. You know, if you have microphones, you have speakers that you want to send to us, we have a small studio where young people learn different types of music, and that's why we have had musicians like Daliso, Manawam Komboni coming out of Africa Directions Gates, because we believe in giving young people an opportunity to explore their talents. So in terms of materials, they can support us with that. Financial materials support as well is welcome. And also, if you want to dedicate yourself to a particular program, say a team of survivors of gender-based violence, you want to support them with whatever activities that they want to do, you can actually do that. If you want to support the kids program by providing different games and all sorts of materials, children's materials that you want to discard, we always welcome such materials. The other part is that we have a vision of giving young people a chance. That's our motto, actually, that we want to give each young person a chance. And we want to scale our programming. Sometimes we can't scale our programming because some of the development partners may not see the need for some of the activities that we do. But we believe as an organization that all the activities that we do, from sexual reproductive health, governance, entrepreneurship, and children's rights, are all interlinked, and recreation also plays a role. So if you integrate some of this information at recreational spaces, it is easier for young people to remain informed and also ensure that they make informed decisions and choices. So we have also other social entrepreneurship ideas that we feel that people in the diaspora can engage with us and see how they can partner with us, so that they are not just supporting for the sustainability of our programming, but they can also make money out of these social entrepreneurial ideas that we have as an organization. That way, they are investing in Zambia by creating employment, by also ensuring that we build the country that we want, but at the same time, they'll be able to make a little bit of money from these social entrepreneurial ideas. Business plans are there, the innovations are immense, but what we need are those individuals that would be interested to support some of these ideas and partner with us, so that we can sustain our programming and also scale our programming in other areas, so that other young people can have equal opportunities, such as those in Chilenge, in Mansa, in Kasempa, where we are, in Solwezi, and in Kitwe. So we want to scale our programming, but we can only scale our programming if we have strong sustainability ideas, and these are some of the things that I've just shared right now.
Okay. Everyone, you heard Mark say that you want to get in touch with him directly. I put the email up there, mchilongo@gmail.com. You can get in touch with directly. Mark, I wanted to show you something when go ahead.
Hello? Yeah, so no. It's actually, yes, you are right. Yes, mchilongu@gmail.com. Chilongu.
Okay. I wanted to show you one message. Okay, Chilongu.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I wanted to show you one message when you dropped. Dr. Munsanje, who lives here in Pennsylvania, he says he can connect you on the.
Hello?
He says, great to learn about Africa Direct. Thank you, ZB, for sharing them. They need to educate the MPs of the activities. He says he will connect you to one of the MPs. I'll connect you and Dr. Monsanje so that you can work on this.
Yeah, it will be a great pleasure, and we are grateful. One thing that we know is that members of parliament are key strategic partners and stakeholders in addressing youth development issues. I must say here that Honorable Given Lubinda, actually, when he came to see what we were doing in Mutendere, he was the first area member of parliament who have pushed that Africa Directions opens up a branch in his constituency. So we believe that area members of parliament, if we take up this role, you know, and we work together and help them on how they can set up these centers, we believe and we have no doubt in our mind that we'll be able to see innovative young people coming from different parts of this country. So I'll be more than happy to link up with Mr. Monsanje and also just to get to know that member of parliament and see how best we can engage.
Excellent, excellent. All right, everybody watching, thank you for joining us. Mark, amazing work you are doing. Trust me,
thank you.
We are not just talking here. You'll definitely be hearing from us. We shall mobilize. We shall get some of our colleagues to get engaged so that we can push and get our youth to get going. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Much appreciated. Greetings to everyone that managed to have an opportunity to listen to us. We can only build the future we want together, and collectively, in our small ways, we can change the Zambia we want.
That's excellent. Thank you, Mark. All right, everybody, that was our show for today. Just one or two announcements. Starting, you know, in this part of the world, we do what they call daylight savings. So we are changing the time starting next week. This weekend, we're changing the time in these parts of the world. So starting next week, show in Zambia will be coming at 1600 hours. And for those who are the West Pacific in Australia, New Zealand, there, it will be 10 p.m. instead of 11 p.m. So a little bit earlier gives you time to join us next week again as we bring you another exciting discussion. We will be, probably two things might happen. We might go to Brazil, speak to a Zambian who has lived in Brazil for 40 years and to hear what she's been doing. Or we might speak to some of our Nigerian friends about the elections that just happened in their country and the new president that they have elected. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a great weekend.
Zambia Blog Talk Radio.